What's good, everybody? I'm Jędrek, he's Sodek, and this is the second episode of Magic Talks. Let's go. Alrighty, so just like in the first episode, we've gathered some questions from you. Some of those questions were still waiting to be answered from the first episode because we didn't have time to answer all of them. Some of them were asked in the comments to the first one. And regardless of where they came from, they're pretty good. And we have some things to talk about today. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go to our first question from DJ Snags, who asks on Discord. If you can only buy one competitive deck to play for Modern and one deck for Pioneer, what do you pick? And Sodek, I am very interested to hear your answers to that question.
Okay, so I think that Modern and Pioneer are two very different formats in terms of buying into them, because Modern is very stock at the moment. We know exactly which decks are really good, which decks are not that good, and you should avoid them if you want to build something new, etc. But it's relatively easy to show which decks are reasonable long-term investment. For instance, if you like playing Counterspell, just buy cards to Blue-Red Murktide, and there's a very big chance that this deck will be in the format in like 1, 2, 3 years. Like maybe with some tweaks or minor changes, but like it shouldn't come out of the metagame that fast. My only advice is to buy the deck you really like playing, not like I wouldn't focus too much about buying the best deck. For instance, if you are not a counterspell enjoyer like I am, just don't go into Murktide. There are other decks like 8 to 10 archetypes that are like around tier 1, tier 1.5, something like this, and mastering them will give you maybe not an edge but a competitive chance against basically anything in the format. So just ask yourself what you like doing in Magic and do it. So for instance, if you like Counterspell, go for Murktide. If you like spending a lot of money on your cards, go for color. If you like creature combo decks, there's Yavimod Hammer. If you are a Cascade enjoyer like me, just Living End, Rhinos, there's also an Amulet. So just like click Goldfish and find the deck you like and just collect it. What's your opinion on Modern?
So I guess, definitely, of course, you should buy what you will enjoy, and I don't think that's a real answer to that question because that's kind of obvious. I think that what I would be looking for, like from this question, I assume that budget is a relatively relevant concern. Not that you will buy like budget decks, but you can only buy one of each. So I assume you would like to minimize your spending, like of course still keeping the quality of the deck you are purchasing in mind first and foremost. So I would try to find the playstyle you like and buy decks for both format that overlap cards. So for example, if you are playing Murktide, I would be looking into Phoenix or Prowess for Pioneer because you can buy those Spirebluff Canals, those Steam Vents, Ledger Shredders. All of those cards will serve you well in both formats. If you like playing control decks, you can play Blue-White in both formats. I don't know, if you like playing Red-Black in Pioneer, maybe you can buy Grixis Death Shadow. Similar cards there as well.
Or red black scam maybe because of the
or
Foxies.
red black scam. Like I would be looking for some sort of overlap in cards in both decks, so you can just like save some save some money, I guess. There, the other route is to buy a deck that, like, maybe not another route, but another advice that I have is to buy decks that have a bunch of like versatile cards that can easily transfer into other decks. For example, buying a deck like Amulet will most likely leave you with just Urza's Sagas if you want to play a different deck. And if you, for example, buy Living End or Rhinos, you will have fetch lands, you will have shock lands, you will have Force of Negations. If you want to just transform from Rhinos to Living End, it costs very little money to do so. So you can just like broaden your reach or your range rather by, like, I don't know, you will play Living End for like a month or so, 2 months, and you get a bit bored. You can, I don't know, spend a fraction of what new modern deck would cost you to buy Furies and Crushing Footfalls. Or you start with Rhinos and then buying Living End is even cheaper because Living End cards are like, I don't know, 50 cents cyclers for the most part, that you don't already have in Rhinos. So I would definitely look for those overlaps. And yeah, another Pioneer deck that I think is cool to build is the Heroic deck. I've heard a bunch of opinions that this is a good deck. Sodek is looking at me like that and he's playing Abzan Greasefang, which I don't think is that great. So like, I don't know why he's looking at me like that. Canister was pretty impressed with Heroic so far. And I believe Canister in general.
I'm exactly the opposite in terms of how good red-white heroic deck is. I just feel that it's maybe not unplayable, but it's below what format offers you to do. I'm also, after like 1 week of playing Abzan Greasefang, I don't say that the deck is cracked or like tier 0, whatever. It's a reasonable strategy if you want to go graveyard, like do something with the graveyard, and I like doing this. Like we were talking about modern, but in terms of buying in the Pioneer, I wouldn't like, if the budget is a concern, I wouldn't go for Pioneer yet, because there's a very big chance that the format will switch a few number of times. Like there are some decks that are settled, like Mono Green Devotion, Red Black. But for instance, the Mono White Humans deck, like right now, is considered one of, from the top tier. At least in my opinion, it's really good, and like the results show that it's real. But it wasn't there like 2 months ago. It's like there were some banned versions for color, whatever, and
yeah,
like,
but the question isn't whether you should buy a Pioneer deck, but which Pioneer deck would you buy if you had to buy one? So you are not really answering the question.
If I have like I assume that the budget is a concern. So
I don't think the budget is the concern. Like as I've said, I think minimizing your spending is good, but it shouldn't influence. Like if you want to buy, if you think that the most expensive deck in the format is a good thing to buy, I think you should buy it. Like, for example, I think it's totally fine to buy 4 colors your only modern deck, because if you end up disliking playing it, or something gets banned, or there are some metagame shifts and 4 color becomes much worse, then you have all the fetch lands, all the, like, you have cards for at least one other deck, just like foundation building blocks. So like, I guess if you really want to be concerned with the fact that Pioneer is still not like settled and there might be bannings, I would just recommend buying some dirt cheap monocolor deck like Spirits probably, especially if you already own 20 snow-covered islands, which from what I've been told is a pretty significant part of the cost of the deck. Yeah, I think Spirits, like, I think Heroic is a good deck, like from what I've seen on streams and in the matches. Like, I don't know. Sodek is recommending all those humans decks and grease fangs and stuff, and I think heroic is just good, and I would recommend playing it if you like this type of aggressive deck, of course. But yeah, once again, I would definitely focus mostly on having as many cards overlapping in both of those formats if you want to minimize spending. Once again. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good advice. Much better
Next
than
question.
mine.
Okay. So the next one is from N-On. They ask on YouTube, how do you evaluate new cards? How do you think someone can improve at evaluating new cards? So I don't know how much we will be able to help with the second one, because in recent sets we were pretty bad at evaluating cards. We missed Shredder. To be fair, many people missed Shredder, but we were one of them. We thought that Lionsarge will be really good. Once again, a bunch of people thought Lionsarge would be good.
Yeah,
but still,
we also missed Fable of the of the Mirror Breaker. Yeah.
yes.
So, evaluating cards is really hard because.
But once again, not many people had their sights on on Fable. I think it's not a card that you see how strong it is just by looking at it. You have to play with it. So, and it's not a card that you would instantly think, okay, I will play this in my modern deck. So, but it's a card that is totally reasonable to put into your standard deck, and just from your first impression. So people were actually testing for standard tournaments, and they started playing this card, and they find out that this card is really, really strong. So they start putting it into their Pioneer decks, into their modern decks, and that's how it began rolling. And because we are mostly judging cards in terms of modern and to some extent Pioneer, those type of cards are very easy for us to undervalue. But yeah, I guess we'll start from the beginning of this question. How do you evaluate new cards? Once again, I think I mostly view cards personally through the lens of the format that I'm playing the most, or formats plural that I'm playing the most. And for the last couple of years, it was exclusively modern. I've picked some Pioneer now. I'm not playing that much, but I'm watching streams sometimes and at least scrolling through deck lists every now and then. But I'm not that invested in Pioneer, so I mostly try to see cards through the lenses of modern. And how do I do that? Basically, I am trying to judge whether any given card has a potential to be slotted easily into an existing archetype. Because the bar for that on power level is lower than the bar for creating its new archetype. Because the card needs to offer you a lot if you need it to carry a new archetype. And if you just want it to be your, I don't know. There is a card, we will be talking about Dominarius cards next week. But for example, there is this card called Rona Vortex that I already molded to Sodek about because of how it's worded. It's an unsummon that can be kicked for 3 mana, so 4 total to put the permanent. It's creature or planeswalker. It can be kicked for 4 mana to put it on the bottom of the deck instead of just unsummoning it. And I think it's not a card that will just, I don't know, shake everything upside down. But there is a slight chance that you will just play it's blue and the kicker is black, so you have to have a blue-black deck, which is not that easy. But I can see playing a Watery Grave in some blue-red deck and just have it as an option to deal with Murktide, because unsummoning Murktide is okay. So if you are playing those one-offs that will be situational cards or minor additions to archetypes, it's much easier to make the cut, I think, than it is for a card like, I don't know, uh, the new Karn Planeswalker, which is like, it's pretty obviously bad, I think, but like for this type of card that is mostly designed as a build around, even if this card was like way stronger, it's still, the bar is still higher than it is for like a removal spell or a cantrip or whatever like that, because it needs to put much more more weight on its shoulders by itself. So yeah, first thing I'm looking for is whether the card can easily slot into the existing archetype, and then if I see a card that's like can be like archetype defining by its own, I mostly am looking for comparable effects in the past. So whether a similar card has been printed and doesn't see play yet. So for example, there is a card that does a certain thing for 2 mana, and it's been in Modern for 5 years, and it hasn't seen play. I don't expect the similar card to see play unless having 8 copies is much better than having 4 copies of any given card. Like for example, if you are playing a plus B combo deck, then if you have 8 copies of each A and B, your deck is much better than having 8 and 4 or 4 and 4. But if it's a card like, I don't know, some beater, like Tarmogoyf was good, and if a Tarmogoyf power level beater is not good anymore, I don't think that having 8 Tarmogoyfs changes anything drastically from having 4 Tarmogoyfs. And for example, from Dominaria, there is a Goblin Lord that we're kind of excited about with Sodek.
True.
It's 2 mana, 1/1. It pumps other goblins, and whenever another goblin or this card as well, I think. Yeah, so it's either this card, which I don't remember how it's named, it's not important right now, or another goblin dies, you exile the top card of your deck, and you may play it until the end of your next turn if it's a goblin. So like, this is a 2 mana Goblin Lord, which I don't think existed before. I think all Goblin Lords were 3 mana. And it offers a decent amount of value outside of just pumping your creatures. Like, tribal decks are bad against removal, and this card is good against removal, for example.
It's not only a value card, it's also a combo card with Skirk Prospector and like Mokwar Marshal, because you can sacrifice goblins to generate mana and exile cards to cast more goblins to draw cards. And there's a Fecundity vibes, etc.
I wouldn't put Fecundity in my deck because it's terrible.
But this is a Fecundity for 1 less mana and as a pump, and it works like by itself.
I wouldn't put the card Fecundity in my deck. But as a replacement, I can like it's just a decent card by itself. So yeah, I think those are 2 most important criteria for me: whether the card could be put into an existing deck easily, or whether the card has a unique or better version of an effect that already existed, or is the copies of 5 through 8 of a card that's already existed, but having more redundancy is very good. So, anything you want to add?
The only thing I wanted to add is that like playing new cards shouldn't be considered as cooler compared to playing older cards, because players love to try new things and love to convince themselves that this new card will maybe not dominate Modern but will have an impact. And every time I try to evaluate the new card, I'm asking myself, is it better than the options we have at the moment? For instance, like funny situation, there's a goblin, like 3 mana 2/2 that creates a goblin attacking at the beginning of the combat, and for 4 mana and exiling 5 cards, you can return it from the graveyard. And people on the Dredge Discord were asking, will it be playable in format? And the first question I was thinking about is it better than Oxophagonas? Probably not. So it won't be played at all. Or is it better than Croxa that's already in the format? Of course not. So let's not waste time on evaluating these cards. Uh, how do you think someone can improve at evaluating new cards? Ask good questions, in my opinion. Like,
Yes. Yeah, but basically, I would focus on asking questions that both Sodek and I mentioned, and just play new cards. Like, try to evaluate cards, play with them, fail at evaluating them properly, try again with more experience, and do that repeatedly, because that's the best way to improve. Like, of course, asking good questions is important, but even if you ask good questions, it's not that easy to find those gems. Like, I think the last card I evaluated, like, I was really proud of, was, I think it was Arclight Phoenix. I think that was the last one that I bought, like, for half a ticket on Modo each, and like for €1.50 in paper, like week of the release or next week or something, before anybody was really on into this card. And yeah, that was the last card that I was like, wow, this card is really good. And people were like, is it? And it turned out to be pretty great. So
I bought Anisis Herses in this like similar situation, because like I felt like the card like can dominate the game by itself, so I can buy it for like $50 on the pre-list. So I just bought them. And
yes.
The last thing at evaluating new cards is like there's a trap. The trap when you think about the card in one given archetype. For instance, when we are thinking about Fable of the Mirror Breaker, we are comparing this to the old Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker. And we were thinking about this as a bad combo card instead of thinking about it as a
We
very good
weren't
value
thinking
card.
that. We were thinking that this card can't be a combo card because of how it's
Yeah.
worded. So
And we were not thinking even for a second about how big value it creates.
Nah, we almost immediately thought that the card is more of a Seasoned Pyromancer than a Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker card. We just thought that it's much worse than Seasoned Pyromancer. So that's not the case, I think, in this particular example. But yeah.
Yeah, but generally speaking, like tunnel vision yourself into the card doing one thing can be a trap. And
yes,
like by playing, you can see when this card is actually good or not.
Okay.
In which situations.
Next question.
Yes.
Okay, so Omniludis asks on YouTube, how do you prepare for competitive events when your local environment is more on a casual side? I know that a lot of successful players come from quote-unquote breeding pools when they were surrounded by competitive players from the start. It seems so much easier to grow when you play in such an environment compared to when you are taking it on by yourself. Short answer, play Modo. And like, you can't really grow without having better players around you. Like, and it's true if you are starting playing Magic, if you started going to your first competitive events, you are already good at Magic, you have to surround yourself with better players, and there are always better players than you to find. Like, I've said it many times, and I will say it again many times, that the biggest factor in my improvement at playing Magic is Canister, because he's better than I am. He's been better than I am for years, and spending a lot of time with him and talking to him definitely made me into a better player. And I guess, yeah, you have to play, of course. So playing on Modo and playing outside of your like local meta game, so you don't have those, like, for example, some meta games that are local can become very inbred. Like, for example, I can believe that there will be modern LGSs when they are like 15 people playing, and I don't know, 3 of those people had, I don't know, Dredge for their whole life, and they want to play Dredge. So 20% of your meta game is Dredge, and suddenly you keep losing and losing against them because you're playing like Murktide and you feel, damn, I can't play Murktide because it loses to Dredge, or something like that. So on Modo, Modo metagame, as we said many times, is like the closest to real metagame there is. So it will like free you from any biases, I think. And also you can meet people on Modo. You can chat to some people. You can find people on social media, on Twitter, on Reddit. Maybe there are like Facebook groups, stuff like that. Just meet people who think about similar decks you like, who think in both similar and dissimilar, I think, is the opposite of similar ways than you. Because it's very important to find people who have different takes on things than you are. Because if you are just surrounding yourself with people who agrees with you on everything and have similar viewpoints, then you are creating like an echo chamber and everything will just reverberate and start becoming louder and louder and louder and louder. And at some point you will just think, okay, so everybody thinks the same thing that I am. And once again, I think this is one of the reasons why I grew so much side by side with Canister, because Canister has a very different outlook on many things than I have. And usually the truth is somewhere in the middle. So we can argue. And I will argue from one side, he will argue from the other side. And then we'll meet somewhere in the middle. Sometimes it's closer to his side, sometimes it's closer to my side, but we both will benefit from that. And I guess it kind of ties up into this. You should talk to different people, like you shouldn't talk to just one person specifically. Of course, it's fine to have like a best Magic friend or whatever that you will talk to the most, but it's good to have other people that you will talk to from time to time that has different perspectives, different opinions, just to broaden your horizon, basically.
Yeah, but there's a risk in this because, like, if your play group is quite casual, their opinions about the cards, matchups, etc., can be very, very far away from the truth. Because, for instance, if there's one really good Murktide player that can navigate the Dredge matchup quite well and knows what to counter, what to keep, etc., they can like change the whole perspective of the matchup. Because like other like these Dredge players, like hypothetical Dredge players, are just worse compared to what we are doing. So talking to other players is good, but also like talking to better players instead of you is much useful compared to talking generally speaking.
That's basically what I said.
Thanks. Also, I would also say that how do you play in casual environment on casual side? So having one friend who also wants to be better is a really good thing to do. Like you both don't need to don't have to be great at what you are doing, but if you want to improve, if you want to learn how to play, you can be better like in like year from the start, yeah, when you decide to go better. So you don't need to have a really big play group or like these great teams in the like golden era of the Pro Tour, like 15 great players who prepared all together. Like having one dedicated player who wants to test you and want to again ask good questions is much more valuable than a group of 10 players who are like casually playing one FNM and know and think that they are right about many things. So just try to find this one guy who will like invest his time and like resources to be better in Magic. And by this you and this friend will get better moving forward.
Yeah, basically. Like you will both find new things to inspire one another, right? For example, you will like it's pretty common, I think, that you have this friend and they will message you, wow, I found this article and it's really good and you should check it out. And then you will both read it and you will both gain something, or this new video, this new streamer, this new, I don't know, deck to try, this new matchup plan or like sideboarding plan for a matchup you already played, to give you this different outtake on things. So definitely having this person you talk to Magic the most about be your friend or at least like colleague is also very, very helpful than just faceless people on the internet. So that helps.
And what do you think about consuming content as a way to become better? Because like I generally speaking, we are content creators and like we spend a lot of time on Magic, so we know something, but we can be also not like we can also have bad takes. There are also people who are very casual at creating content and inspire, like if you inspire from like the content creators who are very casual can be quite devastating, because their opinions can be very away from the truth again. So is there a golden rule, like what you should check, what you shouldn't check?
I don't know, like every content has a different purpose, right? So like I don't think I'm the best person to ask this, because I'm really bad at learning in general. As like, or maybe not at learning, but at having a structurized process of learning. Like I've had problems throughout my whole life if something did not come to me, maybe not like only naturally, like semi-naturally or something. Like if I actually were like in school or something, and if I did not understand something throughout a lesson, and then I would have to go back to home and study, that would have been an issue for me. Like, thankfully, I think one of the reasons I think I'm this way is because I didn't really have those problems ever. Like, it was very easy for me. I have a, I guess very good memory, I would say. And I never had to study at home in like high school and stuff. And I think I saw those problems I have with learning when I was at the university, because then I've had some more tougher subjects, and some subjects that I don't really want to focus on, because every time, like if you go to university, you will have some subjects that are like in the path you want to pursue later on with your specialization or something like that, and some subjects you have to take because, for example, you are studying computer science and you have to have like a broad spectrum of subjects. Or I was studying finance and accounting, and I was disinterested in accounting at all, and I had to study it anyways, and I was pretty bad at that. So yeah, I guess what I wanted to say is that you should consume content like in different ways if you want to get something else from it. Like if you are consuming some content for entertainment, for example, you are watching your favorite streamer that is mostly like entertainment, then it's a total different process than if you want to consume content to learn.
To be better. Yeah.
I don't know. Best example I have is I'm not consuming much Magic content myself, but I do consume a fair bit of League of Legends content. So I approach it in a different way if I just want to put on a like professional game stream that I want to learn from, because it's a totally different level of play and I might not understand many things, and they are playing on comms 5v5 versus playing in solo queues, yada. And I watch it because I am interested in this and I want to see spectacular plays, great production value and stuff like that. So for example, it's the same way if you are watching, I don't know, some streamers like probably Goldfish or something. You just want to be entertained because Saffron Olive is building cool new deck that will probably win like 20% of his games on like at best, but it will be great production value. There will be some jokes and some good vibes and stuff like that. But if you want to watch like I don't know, if I want to get better and I want to climb, I will watch videos on how to lane better, how to do stuff better, and I will have a pen in my hand and I will try to like point out most important things. So for example, I don't know, if you are watching a stream or a video of somebody playing Magic, I would advise to have like, I don't know, a piece of paper and a pen and write down something that you think is interesting. Like for example, I don't know, you're watching somebody who streams a lot and has a good educational value. I guess, I don't know, Nassif, you are watching Nassif playing or Canister or Spike or whatever, and you saw a play that you thought was really interesting and like opens you to something very, like, it's quite common, I think, that you will watch something that's like at the first sight it's not that like it looks like nothing to most people, but for you it will be this huge breakthrough. Like for example, I don't know, the first time you realize, I don't really have a good example, but I don't have to play my instant spells at instant speed, the latest I can do, but sometimes when they are tapped out you can do it this way. Or I should double block much more in constructed, which is like mostly a limited thing, I guess. Like sometimes you will have those breakthrough or about any given matchup, like, I don't know, I'm playing 2017 blue-white versus Tron and I can just play Snapcaster Mage on turn 2 and start killing them while countering their stuff or something like that. Like, you should mark down those important things. And like, I don't know, I have many different pieces of paper on my desk. They are mostly for like notes on content, but I will have those pieces of paper on my desk like all the time basically, so you can just look at it, and sometimes your eyes will wander towards them and you're like, okay, I learned that last week and it was pretty cool, maybe I should like pursue it more and practice it and look for those moments in my own games. So yeah, I guess once again, whatever you need from content is like different content requires different approaches, I guess.
Yeah, I came to conclusion that I have one more advice. If that's possible, watch replays of your games, because personally, when I started playing MTGO, I was playing like Ad Nauseam and Dredge, and I started watching my replays. I was pretty sure that I played my game perfectly and opponent was lucky. And after I started watching replays, I realized how bad I am and how many small things I missed when I was so focused on, like, for example, I'm playing around counter magic, and in reality, like there were several signals that I shouldn't have to play, and I should just go for straight for the win. So just like watching replays will give you like another perspective of what you have done in the given situation, and based from this you can learn and try to do better decisions next time. Make decisions.
Yep. I guess I'm pretty bad at watching my own replays. Like, it's a very popular advice when you're trying to get better at League of Legends as well, to watch your VODs. I'm not great at that, both in Magic and in LoL. But yeah, that's a pretty good advice to do. Okay, I guess we are almost 40 minutes in, so we should wrap this up. So yeah, that was Magic Talks number 2. Thank you for your questions. We still haven't gotten through all of them, but you are more than welcome to ask more of them in the comments. Below you can find all the links you need to our website, to Twitter, Twitch, social media, yada yada yada. But the most important thing is even below that description, and those are comments. I've already mentioned them. Go and ask us some questions, because we are doing this only if you are asking us questions, because we need to answer something. Yep. Anything you want to add, Sodek, or?
I'm hyped for Dominaria and how it will.
Yes.
how
Great.
it will
We
impact the
will.
format.
Yeah, we will review Dominaria 2 weeks before you see this video, probably, because we are shooting this on 23rd of August, and it will release on 9th of September, if I'm not mistaken. So over 2 weeks from now, and you will already probably see many takes on Dominaria cards till then. And I hope we will be as good at evaluating those cards as we were at answering those questions.
So
I guess not that great.
quite good. Yeah.
So not
Six
great.
out of-
Okay,
6
Yeah.
out of 10. Yeah.
6 out of 10 is a decent grade to get, I think. Okay, thanks so much for watching as always. We'll see you next week. Take care and bye bye.
See ya.